Welcome to segment 3 of Joe and the Fat Man, Joe Smeltzer, Kyle Golick, Jay Hallahan here with you. And let's talk some recruiting, shall we? One of Penn State's top class of 27 commits is looking elsewhere. Kemon Spell, a star from McKeesport High School in the Pittsburgh area, was the first player to commit to Penn State's 2027 class, and he's still committed, but he's taking 4 unofficial visits to schools that aren't Penn State. Penn State is one of the schools he's visiting, one of the 5 visits. He's going there for the whiteout against Oregon September 27th, but he's also visiting former Penn State running backs coach Jaywan Sider and Notre Dame September 13th for his game against Texas A&M. He's going to see Florida State Miami October 4th and Alabama Tennessee October 18th. And all of this is preceded by Ohio State Texas the very first week of the season. Nittany Sports Now got an exclusive with Spell earlier this summer, and he said he was 1,000% locked in. He also said that on the record that Jaywan Sider had tried to get him to visit Notre Dame, and that he told Sider basically that he was locked in with Penn State and wasn't going to visit, but he is going to visit. We'll see what comes of this visits. All of these visits, with the exception of Florida State, are at least close-ish to Pittsburgh, and why not go see some great college football games. So what do you guys read into this? Is this just a guy like taking opportunities because he can, or do you think Penn State is in trouble with keeping his commitment?
So, hopefully Penn State fans remember and can recollect several years ago a prime number 1 prospect out of Harrisburg. His name was Micah Parsons. And if you remember that commitment run, he drove everybody nuts because
Yep.
he was going to Ohio State. He literally was championing Nebraska. I think he made a bunch of visits to Lincoln, believe it or not, and had Oklahoma real high as well. At the end of the day, his heart was here in Happy Valley. One of the things that he was able to glean out of it was an appreciation for what he had here at home, and it really satisfied, because in life you don't want to look back and be like, man, should I have taken that visit to Ohio State or Notre Dame or Alabama or Florida State. When you have the opportunities presented to you in life, you got to just take them. And it makes it uneasy in this game. I know we want these kids to commit, and you could already see the keyboard warriors. These kids don't know what commitment is. The kids do. But you know what? Go back to when you were 17 or 18 years old. Did you know what you wanted to do? I don't hold it at all against the kids. Go visit. I want those that sign their letters of intent to Penn State to feel good about their decision. I know what I need to do to make a decision feel good for myself, and that's usually vetting it and going through some things. So, look, he's committed. We're the lead school, but we got to also, demonstrate to him we're still that it thing. Just because we got a commit from him a year ago doesn't mean that's set in stone. You got to work hard for it. This is where we talked about before with Messiah Minkins when Sider went over to Notre Dame. Like, this is going to be a big time battles for him. He won that first battle by keeping Minkins at home, saying and he was locked in. Well, now he got to work with Spell. This one's going to be a lot longer. Notre Dame seems to be on the road. They got that Teddy Gerard, that top quarterbacking prospect who's very much a fast riser. So you're going to have to contend with that. Ohio State has put in as many running backs in the NFL as any school. And Alabama, you look at Derrick Henry, that's all you need to say. Najee Harris made the NFL. All these are great programs. Even Florida State, even though they've been up and down a little bit under Mike Norvell, that is still a destination school. And, I always tell people, I think since 1979, no school has finished the regular season, keyword regular season, undefeated more times than Florida State. So take it for what it's worth.
I hope that he is just a big fan of college football, and I have to wonder why Spell's not going to the backyard brawl between Pitt and West Virginia this year. Seems like
Because he's not going to either of those schools.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if he's hitting up every other big game, he should be hitting up the Pitt West Virginia game down there in Morgantown. That's just a joke, but No, I think Penn State's big key factor is that they do have Stan Drayton. I mean, obviously, J1 is a huge reason as to obviously why he's going to be taking a trip out to Notre Dame to see that game. And if not for the fact that they got Drayton, who obviously has been there, done that, has been successful at every single stop as a running backs coach, I have a very, very high reasoning to believe that he will be a Penn State Nittany Lion, or that this will not be as big of an effect and will hopefully not drive Penn State fans as crazy as the Micah Parsons recruiting, because Kyle gave me PTSD to that, and it was not very fun when he flipped to Ohio State out of nowhere, if I remember correctly, and then went back.
He was on College Game Day, I believe,
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
And Kirk Herbstreit aided the future of Penn State football unintentionally by leading Parsons to commit a pretty ridiculous NCAA violation, but that hurt Ohio State in its recruitment, and it ended up helping Penn State. But yeah, I don't think Kemon Spell is going anywhere, and these things are fluid, right? This guy is a class of 2027. Remember, the class of 2026 is still several months away, almost half a year away from signing their letters of intent, and in some cases a little longer since that late windows in February. But this guy has been a Penn State fan really his whole life. He goes to a school where the most famous alum, at least athletically, and probably even beyond sports, Brandon Short, became an All-American, a legend, and today still a very active member in the Penn State community as a trustee. Terry Smith, another big part of Penn State football history on the field and a big part of the current coaching staff, has big ties in the Pittsburgh area, and that's why Penn State has been getting some of the best in the WPIAL in recent years. Quentin Martin, obviously, a big time example. Tyke Hayes from Aliquippa, that's closer to Kemon Spell's class, and even in the future, 2026, they got Matt Sig from Fort Cherry, the top player in the WPIAL at safety coming in. But yeah, it's anything can happen, right? Things are fluid. Kids have a lot of time to change their minds. But other than the fact that he's taking these visits, I don't really see, and especially going back to my conversation with Spell 2 months ago, I don't see any reason that Spell shouldn't be signing on the dotted line when that time comes next December.
Yeah, I mean, it's a time in their lives, like, and I think people just got to level set with this. There are very few times in life where you have the world wanting you because of the talent you possess. This is in the vocation that Kemon Spell is trying to get into. Uh, this is it. So let him enjoy. Think of all the hard work he's done to get to this point, to be rated as a 5-star, to be rated as the number one prospect at running back in the country. That takes a lot of hard work. So I want him to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Go visit the country and make sure you make a great decision. Hopefully it's Penn State. I don't want you to go anywhere else, but you do you, and enjoy the journey.
100%.
Yep, and talking about the Penn State class of 2027, it's a small class, but it's a mighty class. So far, there's only 3 commitments, but man, all of them are really big time players, and big time players that are rising in the rankings. 2 of them are 5 stars with Khalil Taylor and Leighton Von Brand. Von Brand, a defensive lineman uh, from Delaware. And speaking of Khalil Taylor, he's another Pittsburgh guy. He did play at St. LaSalle, but is transferring to Pine Richland, where he plans on playing his last 2 seasons. He says it's for not athletic purposes, but because his father lives there. That's Mike White of the Post Gazette reported that. But with the 2027 class for 2026 class for Penn State, kind of slipping a little bit. By the way, the number one class for 2027, believe it or not, is Sacramento State. So that shows you kind of where we are at in the recruiting cycle. But Penn State is number 2. And 2 of the commits are 5-stars. So that's pretty good. And that Taylor and Spell, keeping at least one of those guys would be great, but keeping 2 would be ideal for Penn State, especially since if those 2 have great careers, that even further entrenches the WPIAL pipeline that really has developed under James Franklin and aided greatly by Terry Smith.
Yeah, it's something that when Franklin came to Penn State in 2014, he had his dominate the state. And if you recall at the time, there was a mass exodus out of the WPIL, and he has done a fantastic job of keeping Western Pennsylvania kids at home. You think of Lamont Way to Clairton, that was a pure pit pipeline. You think Miles Sanders at Woodland Hills, he would have probably ended up at Michigan or Michigan State, but he ended up at Penn State. Tyke Hayes, who's one of the youngsters in this class, that would have been a Pitt kid. He's in Penn State. So, James Franklin has done a fantastic job keeping the Western Pennsylvania kids at home. This is his ultimate challenge here. You got 2 5-star studs that are at 2 5-star programs in Western Pennsylvania, in McKeesport and Pine Richland. It's, can you keep those kids at Penn State to keep Pennsylvania as your top thing? You want to dominate the state. This is it right here. You gotta keep these kids at home. It's a long time until they sign a dotted line, but let's just see where that goes.
Yeah, and that's Taylor committing, transferring to Pine Richland could be a big deal because Penn State doesn't have a Pine Richland pipeline yet. They have pipelines with Aliquippa, Pittsburgh Central Catholic. Those are 2 of the premier programs in the WPIAL. But Pine Richland is right there too. And Penn State, I can't think, Kyle, can you think of any Pine Richland guys that have gone to Penn State?
To the top of my head, Joe, no. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, Kevin McCabe, and that's a name from the past. Penn State tried to visit him, and he ended up, I think, going to Virginia.
Yeah, and Pine Richland's a school that has gotten some pretty darn good college football players.
Phil Yurkovich didn't even want to smell Penn State. I mean, he ended up at Notre Dame. I mean, that goes to tell you how tough sled. I mean, North Allegheny, he was able to get Joey Porter Jr. out of there. I mean,
yeah,
this is like one of the last, like when you really think of the high end programs in southwestern Pennsylvania here, you start going through, you could pick a couple guys from each of these schools that Penn State's gotten a guy from. I can't tell you a single guy from Pine Richland, and they've been amongst the best in southwestern Pennsylvania in high school football.
Right. Rounding third and headed for home on Joe and the Fat Man. Segment 4 will be the box mystery Fat Man will explain when we continue with Joe and the Fat Man.